This is our Defiant Women Spark page. So Alex, Michele, Alex Calvert, Michele, Rabkin, and I took the Defiant Women, Gender, Power, and Violence in American History with Professor Stephanie Jones-Rogers. Plug for her, she's amazing. And so this course took us on a journey through history, particularly utilizing an examination of the relationships between gender, power, and violence as the lens by which to really ask us to reconsider narratives that are so often used to articulate much of North American history. And our examination spanned from the colonial period to the modern era. And we really considered many different women from diverse communities, backgrounds, means, and motives. The examination provided us with an opportunity to see how an insight into how women have challenged conventional notions of quote unquote womanhood through their words and their deeds, how their respective communities understood their behavior, and how contemporary conceptualizations of their lives do not always conform to the narratives they themselves have constructed. So this opportunity to reconsider and thus reimagine a more complex understanding of women, their stories and actions, helped to reshape our own understanding of our history, and in particular to develop a more truly accurate picture of this history with more nuance and truthful constructs around the experience of women identifying groups and figures and the real impact that they had on society and history in those places and periods. And I'll let Alex talk about some of the key course takeaways.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so there was just so much with this course that we learned that was just basically learning for the first time. Like from history courses we've taken in the past, it was just a completely new experience. But some of the key course takeaways that we had was just that we were really able to uncover aspects of history that normally remain hidden and dig deep into the stories of influential and multidimensional women to really learn about where they were sitting in history, what they were dealing with. So as class concluded, Jess, Michele, and I kind of reflected on our biggest takeaways. And I think the thing that struck us all the most was just how often certain voices and stories remain invisible in historical narrative. And this is just so important to keep in mind as we move through the world and we take in information and knowledge and news stories of our time, because the narrative that is remembered and shared is so often driven by the people that hold power. So through our lectures and our weekly discussions, we were able to really engage in conversations around the implications of like race and ethnicity, economics, class, and religion, and how these individual women were impacted, and also how they defied stereotypes and common assumptions that we may make about women. And this can be in good ways or in bad ways. So we learned about a lot of violent women, which maybe doesn't fall in line with your traditional thinking of womanhood. And we also found ourselves comparing the times of the past and the treatment of marginalized populations with our time in which we're currently living. And with that, I will pass it to Michele.
You know what? Thanks, Alex. And I'm sorry to cut you guys short. It's just we want to get everyone in. I'm going to ask the elections class to go next. But again, everyone, please feel free to jump into these breakout rooms because there's a whole rest of the Spark page and so much to unpack. Thanks, you guys. So the elections group.
Hi, sorry, that's me. I'm trying to.
Couple of things happen in an election year, huh?
Yeah. Well, in case staff are intimidated by Alex and Jess and their amazing Spark page, we're here to provide some balance as far as we really summarized our experience on our staff page or on our Spark page here. And we really distilled our takeaways into three main themes. My cat's making a guest appearance. That this country was shaped by racial capitalism. It's really hard to change. People have been trying over the years, but there absolutely is hope moving forward. And our Spark page goes into more about that. Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Oh, and I also highly encourage everybody to watch the UCTV lectures, because of course this course is not running again, and I got so much out of it. I highly recommend that everyone watch.
Thanks, Krista. Yeah, and it's funny, we were joking, like, and maybe it's not a joke, it's a heavy thing to think about, like this class could go on forever, right? Like the implications of all of this is ongoing, and the struggle is ongoing, and the study is ongoing, right? Awesome, thanks you guys. How about ethnic studies, please?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump in. I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. So we ended up not doing a Spark page, but a handy dandy Google Slides here for y'all. So Paris, myself, and Indu took the Intro to Ethnic Studies course with Professors Keith Feldman and Professor Juana Maria Rodriguez. Shout out to the both of them, they're amazing. This class was really great in the fact that it not only explored comparative ethnic studies between race and ethnicity, but it dived deeper into different topics such as Latinx studies, Asian American, Native topics as well, and even going further into addressing decolonization, social justice, social movements. And I'm going to pass it over actually to Indu to kind of address some of our key takeaways from that class.
Hi, thanks, Gigi. So for me, before I launch into this, I must say that I took the course very ambitiously. I thought I would be attending all the lectures and stuff, but unfortunately, I think I did not attend more than one lecture. So that is a confession to make. However, having said that, I found it so interesting that it was nice to be able to go back to those lectures and kind of view them and the reading material on my own time. There were many times when I felt like a deer in the headlights. It's like I had my budget work to do, and then there's so much going on anyway, so news to catch up on, and then to add to that, to view and read up on the course. But what I really found interesting was the fact that what I learned from the course kind of gave me a good lens to view current events from. And I really, really valued that. So even though I did not give as much time as I would have liked to give to the course, I feel I got a lot out of it. So with that, just a few key takeaways for me. I mean, given the fact that I'm a CFO, I look at the economics of everything. So, I mean, and I saw that really this course kind of gave me a historical perspective on how what we enshrined in history has an impact on current economics, and that capitalism thrives on inequality, that racism enshrines inequality, that religion and law can be used in the service of continuing inequality as they have been historically, and that differences are commodified and therefore they continue this economic inequities. So, and if you look around, you see that worldwide, billionaires are predominantly white, and that's not just happenstance. It's just because of the framework of distinctions and racism that they have been provided historically, that it's come to such a pass. So to be able to change that, as Kathy put quite succinctly, we need to first understand that. So for me, that was really useful.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Thank you.
Sorry.
That was beautiful.
Sorry, I took too much time.
Of racial capitalism, and more to come, right? In the interest of time, and again, I'm sorry for the curtness of it. Can we have the fire group give us a preview of what you got coming? Yeah, thanks.
Hi, this is Sara. I wanted to share just briefly. So our group developed a Spark page, and we really wanted to capture some context around the other sort of part of our project. and to share some of the context and background from the course. So thinking about the recent catastrophic wildfires in the state and how that's underlined by a number of subjects from our course, thinking about the fire suppression policies over the last 100 years, impacts on the environment and indigenous groups, the ecological benefits of prescribed or cultural burning and contrasting cultural perspectives, and then also possibilities for social justice in the future of sustainable land management. I'll turn it over to Alex.
Yeah, so we'd love if you could join us. We actually created a video, and we were hoping, we wanted to create something that would be useful for advocacy, and a tool that could live beyond the course and be used to help organize folks to support the issue and get more informed. So we will play that video, which features some of the voices of folks in our class. And so come join us in the breakout room and watch the video, and we can have a discussion about it.
Thanks, you guys. All right, and last but certainly not least, transforming tech.
Awesome. Thank you, Betsy. So Betsy and I were in the Transforming Tech course, and our presentation is focused on a unique unit from our class, which was focused on the aesthetics and philosophies of Afrofuturism and Indigenous futurism. And in our presentation, we consider the nature of those cultural concepts as interventions to the hegemony and exclusionism of contemporary mainstream digital culture and the concept of tech utopianism. So we're going to be discussing how Afro and Indigenous futurism hold particular and unique notions of decolonized temporality and reimagined Black and Indigenous futures, as well as providing examples of different kinds of cultural output and artworks. So come join us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks you guys so much. Natalie, yeah.
Thank you so much. Wow, I wish I could attend all at the same time. Okay, I'm going to open up all of the breakout rooms. Okay, so the breakout room should be opened, and at the bottom of your little ribbon in Zoom, I'm also going to reshare the screen here.
Hey,
so
before we jump out, can we ask the people who are presenting in each of the breakout rooms, if you could record your breakout room, that would be great for us.
Thank you, Jean. Yes.
Sorry, I just saw people leaving.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so these are the breakout rooms. Feel free to hop into one if you're able to yourself via the self-select option. I'll stick around here to move people where they need to go if it doesn't work or for whatever reason. And then yes, as Jean mentioned, if someone could just record the session, I'll put a little link at the end of where you can upload it to. That way we can kind of piece it all together and have a complete presentation. So I will call you back and give you time checks, but we'll hopefully reconvene at about 1:55 for a very brief recap.
Natalie, can you move me to my room, Defiant Women, please?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, I also can't seem to select into my room.
Okay. No problem, no problem. Let me see here.
Sorry.
No, no worries.
I can help also assigning people.
Thank you. If someone could move me to elections 2020.
There, I can
do that, Brianne.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brianne, okay, Jean, okay, good.
And I would also like to be moved to election 2020. It's Colette Plum.
Colette, I got you,
Let's move
Colette.
the course people first.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Brianne, you said election 2020?
Yes, please.
Anyone else stranded with us?
I am. Paris.
I'll
Paris.
Paris.
Thank you.
Ethnic studies. Okay.
Thank you.
I can't move myself.
I can move you, Jean.
Okay.
We have an instrument. Juana can't move.
Oh, I moved to Juana Maria, I moved you to Intro to Ethnic Studies. So I think you just have to accept it. There, okay. Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Natalie, can you move me to Defiant Women?
Yes. All righty, you should be able to accept.
Where do I see the accepting thing? I'm not seeing that.
It might be at the very bottom where it says breakout rooms in your little ribbon.
Yeah, it just says.
Or it might also, sometimes they hide behind other windows.
Yes.
Like on your desktop. And then Natalie, may I please be moved to Transforming Tech?
Yes.
Thank you.
You are welcome. That was Maya, right?
Yes, Maya.
Perfect. Okay, transforming tech. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me maybe resend you the invite.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, of course.
I have like a incredible lag on my computer.
Fine. Thank you for doing that. Thanks, Monica, if that's you. Mutual aid is a form of participating in a political way in which people are caring for one another, but not through just like non-disruptive activities like voting or donating or, you know, posting on social media or march. I mean, marching is pretty disruptive form of political participation, but it's a way to build new ways of being in the community. So in mutual aid projects, examples of that are like, you might have heard about the community fridges that have popped up around Oakland during the pandemic, or harm reduction programs. You know, some people go around and pass out these harm reduction kits, especially to houseless people. They include like water bottles, protein bars, but also, you know, it could be like methadone, things like this. And these projects emerge because public services and reforms don't often get to the root cause of these systematic problems we see every day. Either they're exclusive or they're, you know, just can't get to the root of the problem. And some other famous examples are the Black Panthers free breakfast program, or the Black Panthers had a school for children in the community. So ideas like this. And also another key aspect of mutual aid is that it doesn't have like qualifying, like there's no qualifiers for mutual aid. Like it should be open to all. There shouldn't be any prerequisites for receiving or participating in mutual aid. So it kind of eliminates these hierarchies, which I'll get to in a second. So there's this really great reading we had, which I'm pulling from by this scholar named Dean Spade, and questions he asks himself when thinking about mutual aid or community project are, does it provide material relief? Does it leave out an especially marginalized part of the affected group? For example, people with criminal records or people without immigration status? Does it legitimize or expand a system we are trying to dismantle? And lastly, does it mobilize people, especially those most directly impacted, for ongoing struggle? And I thought those are really illuminating questions. And I can put them in the chat too. And so a lot of mutual aid projects often show up during disaster or crisis, like these community fridges have kind of popped up during the pandemic when so many people have lost their jobs, lost their income, lost their homes. And they pop up during these times because, you know, everything kind of comes down to survival in a disaster. So these like other social structures are eliminated. And it's kind of like the most urgent needs are what are at the forefront. And the hope is that this way of being can be more translated into our day-to-day, you know, and not just in crisis or disaster, like when there's a hurricane or a pandemic or an earthquake. And so, yeah, so also the mutual aid on the like support end, the idea is—
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Oh wait, you're on mute, Professor.
It's all good. I had some tech difficulty. It's
okay.
I'm here though.
Great. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so the idea of the people who participate in mutual aid, that they come together based on this like shared concern or shared desire to help and support. And in doing so, they cultivate their own solidarity. And also within the mutual aid systems, there's a rejection of hierarchy that we often don't experience in our day-to-day world as well. And so this can also cultivate new ways of thinking or communicating. And so, yeah, I think of mutual aid as a different or alternative way to be and to act. And it's an opportunity to change things you believe in with like-minded people. And probably my favorite thing from that Dean Spade reading in particular was this one group's motto, which was no masters, no flakes, which I would love to be applied to everything. But yeah, I can put those questions, like those questions to ask yourself, to ask yourself about reforms or projects or ways of supporting. Yeah, that's my little take on mutual aid.
Thanks, Paris. I saw there was a question in the chat from Jason. Did you just want clarification what that meant? Snowflakes?
I just wanted to make sure I heard it correctly.
Oh, yeah.
The audio got garbled in the second half.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that is what I said.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to discussing more about some of our takeaways from the class, does anyone have any questions or comments? I know both of our professors are in here, so if you have anything you'd like to add as well, we'd appreciate it.
I guess for clarification, the questions Paris put into the chat, are these questions you would ask to decide if some form of aid qualifies as mutual aid?
Yeah, or just if you're concerned about kind of like liberatory, inclusive reforms or policies or projects or ideas, or I feel like these questions, I like these questions because I felt like they could be applied to almost anything political or in the political sphere.
Question, Jason, that was really helpful in providing those questions. My question that popped up was, Paris, you were talking about the rejection of hierarchies. I was just curious, did they provide any mode of leadership that would replace it, especially when you're bringing together like-minded people and everyone wants to go to a certain direction? How do you make sure there's still direction? Is there like a leadership form that they did recommend?
I'm having trouble remembering that detail. That's a great question. Maybe one of the professors.
Jump in a little bit. I mean, one of the things that I think we tried to do, we started the class looking at manifestos and thinking about different groups that have come together. And so I don't think we were really sort of recommending any single, like, this is how you do it, but just sort of showing these are the things that people have tried to do. And these were some of the problems that they encountered. And these were some of the ways they worked through those problems. So it's not like we have that kind of that meal kit for revolution that gets delivered and here's the steps and you follow them to liberation. But we did try to sort of think about, what happens in the absence. And I think mutual aid, ideas around mutual aid really come the closest to thinking about what it means to be accountable horizontally to one another. Yeah, that's where the no flakes part comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Justin. And just to kind of add my perspective as well, especially with like things like current events and everything that's happening, not only with the elections, but Black Lives Matter, you might hear words like mutual aid funds. I've personally been donating to a lot of them. That helps to provide resources and funding for these people that are out there mobilizing, especially right now in the time of a pandemic where we can't be out there doing those types of things. Through those support, it keeps that solidarity going and that support that's really necessary to keep it alive.
Sometimes it just means passing the mic. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Professor. Paris, did you want to add anything else before I kind of go to the next slide?
No, I think that's it from me on this.
Awesome, thank you. So I know we have about 10 minutes, but we also just wanted to touch, because there was so many amazing topics through this course. Again, I mentioned this earlier that we delved into specific topics about different groups, different theories and things like that. But me, Indu, and Paris put together our own little word cloud with some of the things that really struck out to us. So I'm just going to name them all. We probably won't have time to discuss everything, but for those of you watching, if there's something that kind of you want to discuss more about or are curious to know about, we'd be happy to chat about that. So the items we have on the word cloud are braiding sweetgrass, racial capitalism, Cherokee, colonialism, nationhood, the Grizzlies, mutual aid, Third World Liberation Front, Chicago Young Lords, abolition geography, and intersectionality. So like I said, there's quite a few topics on here. If anyone feels strongly about learning more about a certain topic, we'd be happy to discuss that. Otherwise, the three of us can maybe pick a topic out that we really like. So yes, we have about 10 minutes to discuss all of that.
Hi, this is Monica. I'd be curious to learn more about braiding sweetgrass as well as abolition geography.
Awesome, thanks, Monica. So braiding sweetgrass, Indu, I believe you added that on there if you wanted to go ahead and chat about that.
Yeah, hi. So that is actually the name of a book. It's a collection of stories, Native American stories. And for me, one of the things which I got out of this course was a huge reading list as well, you know, of articles and books. So this was definitely something which popped out at me. And it's a great collection of stories from which give an insight on Native Americans. And I mean, honestly, I learned a lot about how they're still striving for nationhood, how they have organized themselves, and, you know, what the historical backdrop to all of that is, which I really didn't know before. As for what was the second one that you wanted to know about, Monica?
Abolition geography.
Okay, Gigi, you want to speak to that?
Sure. So this is something that the three of us had chatted about. One of the, I don't know if you'd call it a reading, it was a YouTube video from our very early lectures with Ruth Wilson Gilmore. So she speaks to abolition geography, so how the incarcerated state, how that's impacting geography. And one of the keywords on here is also on racial capitalism, on how the value of people is based on their race and ethnicity and how that impacts inequalities and oppressions, those types of systems. The YouTube video was really interesting. I believe Paris, was it in Portugal, that she was interviewed, and it's not too long, it's about 15 minutes. I'd be happy to look at that and share that in the chat for viewing. But yeah, so, sorry. Oh yes, thank you, Professor Feldman. So yeah, definitely check it out. Paris, I believe you're the one that entered this in there. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I think one of the key points Ruth Wilson Gilmore makes in her argument is the idea that this geography is based on racial capitalism, and racial capitalism, which is, you know, capitalism essentially, I might be butchering this right now, I don't know, it started, you know, with the slave trade and the need for labor, or not the need, but the creation of this differentiated labor. And it's, you know, present day, we see that in prisons and the carceral state. And one point that really stood out to me was this concept that prisons are extractive. And not only do they like take you physically out of the world, but they take away your time and, you know, your life. So yeah, this idea of like extracting, and you also, there's also labor within the prisons as well. So just kind of this, yeah, idea of extraction. But I think it was a tough article to read. I remember I had a lot of questions for David on that one. So Gigi, if you want to jump back in, or anyone else.
Yeah, I will say this concept was very new to me, and I'm still definitely trying to understand abolition geography and how that relates to racial capitalism. But the video really did help me understand how, you know, throughout the world, these, I'm not sure how you call it, but the commodification of bodies through their value, their identities based on where they're from, the color of their skin, and how that very much impacts, like, you know, capitalism itself, the economy, how we view labor, and overall just valuing people. I thought that was just very interesting, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Professor Rodriguez, you said I'm summarizing it, but I don't know if it's correct, but I'm trying my best. But I think it's just a really fascinating concept. That's why we really wanted to include that in here. Again, Professor Feldman included that link on there. It's a really great introduction to the concept. And I definitely encourage y'all to take a look if you have time. The reading that we had as well, I'm not sure if you can find that publicly, but we'd be happy to chat more if you want to discuss that in detail. And I see that we have about 5 minutes, so we can definitely highlight another topic, or if you have any questions about Intro to Ethnic Studies, or even our experiences through this pilot program, we'd be happy to chat about that too.
Well, go for it, Professor.
Oh, no. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I was just curious, in a class like this, was there any belief that you had originally that you entered in the class that was challenged, or that you noticed kind of transformed in your own mind through the course?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'd be happy to jump in, or Indu, Paris, if you wanted to provide your input first, go for it.
I think it's always good to be reminded that race is a social construct. That's, you know, those early lectures especially were just so enlightening, and helped me find the articulation for these concepts and ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, it was really illuminating to see how much of a social construct it is. And for me, especially given my, you know, I'm an Indian. I was born and raised in India. Then I moved to Singapore, and now I've come to the US. So just to see the commonalities of, you know, how race has evolved and how it is used as, how it is a social construct and how it is used as an exclusionary tool. You know, having the course material to kind of throw that light on it for me was really, really useful.
Yeah, I definitely echo what both Indu and Paris said. I think one of the most impactful takeaways I got from taking this class is the impact that ethnic studies has on UC Berkeley as our institution specifically, just learning about our history and how ethnic studies came to be. It is an introductory course, but just knowing that foundation and how, because when I was in undergrad, we didn't even have any ethnic studies courses or anything like that. I'm from Illinois originally, and college was a long time ago for me. So just having this opportunity and like I believe Paris or Indu said earlier, just naming these concepts because they're just kind of buzzing around in your head without knowledge of what they truly mean, and just getting to understand that better, and that it is an actual thing. That validation was really, really something that I felt I needed and I really appreciated. So yeah.
Just super quickly, first, Paris, Gigi, Indu, awesome summaries. Second, it was so great as instructors. I'll speak for one and myself. You know, we talked a couple of times about how grateful we were to have you all in the course and to be part of this program. It was really, really exciting. Third, we're going to run the course in the summer. Juan and I were just talking about that this morning, and we're planning to run it again in the fall. So if this program is still running, we'd of course love to see more students. And lastly, just a big shout out to David. I've worked with him in a number of different capacities as a GSI, and I'm so glad that he's in the mix. Y'all are in just such great hands.
Thank you so much.
Wow, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around through the breakout rooms. I hope the presentations were awesome, and thanks for bearing with the self-select breakout room feature. I think when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't work, no problem. We'll just move people where they need to go. So I'm going to post a link to the application here, and then I'm also going to post a link to a Drive folder. So those that recorded in their breakout room sessions can just upload their recording into there, and then we'll get them kind of all bundled together and sent out so everybody can view them. Let me put that in the chat.
While we're doing that, for those who might be interested in applying and have questions, some of us are willing to hang on to the Zoom and can answer any questions. Also, I think just before we close, we wanted to ask everyone if they wanted to share a word in the chat, something, a reaction, a thank you, just something kind of a word, just to close this out, because we don't really have time for the full experience. So feel free to paste them into the chat, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us.
And thank you to the faculty who are here, and thank you to all the staff participants. So brilliant, so much good stuff.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, guys.
It's a lovely word, Fonamir.
Really good words.
Hey, Victoria.
That's what
I'm
I
gonna
was
stop.
going to say.
Oh yeah, we can stop recording now.
So I just say hi before I jumped. That was brilliant. Well done.